You heard about growth hormone earlier with Dr. Nally. I'm a huge fan of growth hormone, and I think this is part of the reason why, if you look at people that have been intermittent fasting for a while, I've found they generally, their skin looks clear. They look good. You're wondering kind of what's going on. Part of what growth hormone does in the fasted physiologic kind of context is it helps to spare lean muscle mass. It helps you to mobilize those fats from your fat tissue to be directly oxidized or to be converted into ketones, and it helps to increase gluconeogenesis from lactate and other non-amino acid precursors. Now, I want to spend just a little bit of time on this slide. I know we don't have a lot of time to dive into all these little things, but this is where we need to talk about what is acceptable to have during a fast or not. Because if you have anything that's going to contribute to the glucose load in the body, you might take this demand off helpful growth hormone. Okay? And the reason why I say that is because, again, part of the reason why growth hormone increases is to spare lean muscle mass, and because what lean muscle mass will be stripped down in a fasted state if growth hormone is not around to make glucose, because you need to have some glucose, okay? Growth hormone is helping to kickstart gluconeogenesis. So this is where people are like, well, okay, does the green tea, the stevia, does the toothpaste, does that break or start my fast? We need to think about, does it affect glucose or insulin levels, okay? And none of those compounds, to my knowledge, unless you're drinking toothpaste out of it has sugar in it, it's not gonna affect, that sort of physiologic response. And just because I don't have a slide on this, but if you're new to this, who's never done any intermittent fasting ever? Okay, we have two honest people in the room, which is great. I'm sure some of you have never done it, right? But just do what you gotta do. Like if you're trying to do a 24-hour fast, if you were like, oh man, I really wanna have cream in my coffee because that's gonna make my day, but I'm worried about autophagy. Have the freaking cream in your coffee in the morning. No one woke up and ran a 100-mile race without running or crawling before, right? You have to start somewhere. And so I think just getting some small wins. And so again, the questions about does the toothpaste, does the dental floss, does praying break my fast? It's like, just do something. Just get started, okay? But again, I don't think you should have a lot of exogenous glucose stores because that's gonna monkey with what your body's naturally trying to do to remobilize glucose from pyruvate and lactate and spare muscle, all right? So we hear this all the time, but what about my thyroid? Doesn't fasting wreck my thyroid? Well, yeah, thyroid hormones will go down when you're fasting, okay? But remember, what else goes down? Glucose, insulin, all these things. So it's hard to be a billionaire and have 15 kids and a farm all at the same time. Like, you can't have everything in life. So I tell people, you gotta kind of pick a path, right? Are you trying to have a utopian, picture-perfect thyroid labs for whatever reason? Or do you want to reduce your body fat, improve blood sugar handling, reduce glucose? The choice is yours. If you want to have picture-perfect and really high levels of your thyroid levels, I tell people you can gain 10 pounds. That will actually probably bring down your TSH and bring up your T3. No, I don't want to gain any weight. I want to lose weight. I say, well, if you lose weight, no matter the course that you use to lose the weight, whether it's calorie restriction, whether it's a protein modified sparing fast, whether it's keto, your thyroid levels will naturally go down. It's just part of how it is, okay? So I think we get stuck on numbers sometimes because we're trying to figure things out, but I want you to realize what are our biggest goals. If having picture-perfect thyroid labs, which really don't mean anything from a symptom standpoint always, obviously there's caveats and so forth. We need to think about insulin, body weight, and all that, not just focus on the thyroid. But a lot of people are curious, well, what about for women? Is it safe for women to fast? And what's the physiologic response? How is it different for women? Thankfully, these studies have been done. What researchers have shown that when women fast, they tend to have lower glucose levels, yet higher levels of free fatty acids. And ketones are about the same compared to men, okay? So women, when you first embark on this and you make this part of your lifestyle, you might notice initially, you might feel a little bit more weak than you normally do, okay? So I don't recommend doing an all-day CrossFit workout, your day one of intermittent fasting. Okay, do your regular workout, but just have in the back of your mind that you might be a little bit more, your blood sugar might be a little bit lower than normal. But there was one study that interviewed, I think it was 2,000 people that participate in Ramadan fasting, and a lot of the women that are of childbearing age, they still participate in Ramadan and they still intermittent fast because they love the mental benefits. And I don't have a slide on it, so I'll leave this picture up right here. It's pretty funny. So, we pick on fasting a lot. Fasting affects cortisol, fasting affects your adrenals, you shouldn't fast. A lot of people say this on the internet. And I say, oh yeah? Well, what happens when you eat food? What happens to your adrenal glands? Does anyone know? Does cortisol go up or down after the meal? It goes up, right? When you eat, I'm not poo-pooing food. I love food. I ate 2 hours ago, okay? I eat food, trust me. But when you eat food, it perturbs your body's homeostatic balance. And therefore, counter-regulatory hormones increase to re-equilibrate your body's balance. So if people say to you, well, fasting's gonna wreck your adrenals, say, okay, well then you should never eat again because eating's gonna raise, the adrenal glands are not like pictures on a wall sitting there to be never stimulated, right? Imagine if someone said, oh, you shouldn't learn a foreign language because that's stress on your brain. You'd be like, what? That doesn't make sense. And this is the same thing when we're talking about physiologic ebbs and flows. We don't want super physiologic levels of cortisol all the time. But when we compress our feeding window and eat within our rhythm, we get the normal circadian diurnal rhythm in our stress hormones. So I just want you to realize that.